Welcome to the Global Gaming Business Podcast, the industry's first and longest running podcast, now in our 16th year. I'm Roger Gross, the publisher of GGB. This week we sit down with Jim Allen, the chairman of Hard Rock International and the CEO of Seminole Gaming, on the rapid recovery of his company since the pandemic. 20 years ago, IGT transformed the industry by introducing cashless gaming with Tito. Now IGT is revolutionizing cashless yet again. Learn more about IGT's resort wallet at igt.com/cashless. Welcome to the Global Gaming Business Podcast. Our guest today is Jim Allen, the chairman of Hard Rock International. Jim, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Roger.
Good to see you. You're looking good. How are things going?
Oh, we are certainly doing well here in Florida. Other parts of the globe are a little bit more challenging,
right?
But certainly the Florida business is actually doing well. You know, the February, March, April months are obviously peak period in Florida, certainly affected by COVID, but overall, we're very fortunate.
Yeah, no question about that. So the last time we talked, I was at the opening of the Hard Rock property, the Guitar Hotel in Hollywood there, and it was a fantastic place. Well, before the pandemic, what was the response of your guests to that property?
You know, just really, and very humbly tremendous. I mean, I think people are just blown away at the architectural design, the fit, the finish. Very proud of all of our employees providing world-class service. And frankly, it was actually exceeding its expectations tremendously.
Right. No question about that. And I think your point about your employees providing the service is a great one. You know, I was there last week and they were just went over and above what you would expect from a normal casino hotel employee.
Thank you.
So let's talk about when the pandemic hit. What was your concern at that point when you were forced to close down?
Well, I think we were like, you know, the rest of the world. You know, how long will this last? Initially, I think people were thinking, maybe it's a few weeks,
right?
You know, but we certainly, you know, realized, and candidly, we were a little bit ahead of the curve because of our operations in China.
Right.
So, you know, we have a hotel in Shenzhen, and we already had been closed down in January, and we saw that, you know, this thing was maybe a little bit more than just a week or two. But certainly the ripple effect here in the United States certainly exceeded probably what we anticipated. Mm-hmm. But like everyone else, you know, we were looking at, you know, obviously all the covenants of our debt and looking at cash and obviously most importantly, focusing on the safety of the tribal members and all of our employees.
Sure, no question about that. So, what did you determine? When did you determine it was safe to reopen, and what were some of the steps you took there to reopen?
You know, we made the determination literally within weeks of when we closed that we were going to go back and review all of our standing operating procedures on an individual and line item basis. So myself and about 7 or 8 other key executives were still coming into the office on a daily basis. And candidly, you know, that eventually expanded to, 15, 20. And the
right.
core group was probably 20, 30 people. And really, whether it was procedures in the cage or food and beverage or housekeeping, security, and most importantly, looking at technology and how we could create something that is clearly changing the perception of being safe. And clearly that's how we created Safe and Sound. And in a very humble way, it just has been a game changer. We've had literally prime ministers, 4 or 5 governors, including Governor DeSantis here, including Governor Murphy in New Jersey, just say about Hard Rock and Safe and Sound is truly world class. So we're very proud of that. I actually had some of my peers as chairman and CEOs saying, why are you guys spending so much money? You're making us look bad.
Right.
Because obviously we did body imaging, we did all the thermal technology, all those things. We were the first to do it in the country. Many have, followed suit. But we know sincerely, by communicating with our database on a daily basis, it was a game changer.
Right, absolutely. And I think the procedures are well in place down there. When I was there last week, the employees suggested pull your mask up over your nose, that kind of thing, and they did it in a very courteous manner. It wasn't like an order. So I think the way you've implemented it really helps the guests feel comfortable.
Well, interesting. You probably noticed two separate temporary uniforms. One is the yellow clean team, right?
Right.
And that is the people that are making sure everything is sanitized and in a courtesy, way going up to the guests saying, please put your mask on. But trust me, we have individuals that sometimes they don't want to do that. So then we created another job classification. And these are individuals that have obviously more of a physical presence in size and trained differently to say in a very polite way, excuse me, ma'am or sir, we've asked you to put your mask up. We've asked you 2 times. We will not ask you again, other than asking you to leave the property itself.
Sure.
And candidly, once, the guests understand that we're very serious about that, we're not going to take the risk. 99.9% comply. There's always a few that want to become combative, but overall, it's actually worked very well. But I don't believe we would have been successful without creating those 2 new job classifications.
Sure, absolutely. So I noticed it was busy as usual, but of course you still have the stipulations of the every other slot machine turned off, fewer people at table games. How has that impacted the revenues?
Frankly, our revenues and EBITDA, frankly, are very strong. Mm-hmm. Certainly utilization of the machines and gaming positions, are at all-time highs, because we are, we're probably at slightly over 60% capacity in gaming positions. We're very strict on the 6-foot, social and safe distancing, but by utilizing the plexiglass dividers and obviously reconfiguring some of the aisles in the slot areas, we're probably about 63% of our machines being active.
Sure, absolutely. So let's talk about outside of Florida. You've got a couple of new properties. You took over the casino in Cincinnati, rebranded it as a Hard Rock. You're on the way to opening in Gary, Indiana. What kind of expansion are you expecting in those places?
Cincinnati pre-COVID was frankly extremely successful. The business was up over 30% once we took it over by implementing, our database and our technology and marketing programs. I believe now we're mid to end December when we're looking at a grand opening to rebrand. Basically we're redoing the inside of the casino, adding some restaurants, and creating a Hard Rock grand opening sometime mid to the end of summer. As far as Northern Indiana, frankly, the building is done. We just received all of our approvals this past Tuesday from the Indiana Gaming Commission, and we announced a May 14th grand opening. So we're ready to go.
That Gary property, I remember Trump was there initially, Don Barden was there. So you're a pretty interesting successor to those 2 guys.
Well, very, very, very politely, a totally different location, right? If you look at this location, obviously being directly on the interstate and all of about, 7-8 miles from the Illinois border, this truly is Northern Indiana, Illinois. And obviously at a very competitive tax rate compared to the Illinois tax rates. It's a totally different experience than the riverboat gaming that Don and Mr. Trump had done, sure. Back, I guess, what was that, the early 90s or so, yeah, I guess, right?
Early to mid 90s, right?
Yeah.
So you just also signed a deal with the Second California Tribe. I know Mark Bertha's doing a great job up in around Sacramento. What's the deal with this Second Tribe and where's it going to be located?
Well, first of all, Mark, just doesn't do a great job. He does an amazing job. So hopefully I haven't jinxed this where somebody tries to poach him from us. But, when I interviewed Mark the first time, we just didn't have something that, worked for him. And then I interviewed him a second time for a different project. And I remember saying to Brad Buchanan, I said, Brad, if it's the last thing I do, I'm going to get Mark to join the Hard Rock organization. Sure. He was so well prepared and excited about coming to Hard Rock. And he frankly did an outstanding job for us in Ohio, is doing an incredible job for us in Sacramento. We're actually exceeding our 9-year projections in Sacramento already. So it is just nothing short of a grand slam home run. As far as Tejon, we actually signed that deal probably 7 years ago, maybe a little longer. Right. But it took us a while, obviously working with the tribe. Their chairman was just here last week, getting everything through the Department of Interior. So, now that we have that done, we're frankly, working with architects, getting the building designed and starting the process to negotiate the compact with the state of California.
Great. So let's talk about Las Vegas. Well, just last night, the former Hard Rock, of course, which you didn't own, opened as the Virgin Hotel. And there's always been a lot of talk that the Hard Rock would certainly work very well in Vegas. What's the status on your considering properties here?
Well, we certainly wish Juniper Capital and the owners, obviously Virgin as a brand, only the best of luck. I'm somebody that has subscribed to the mindset from day one. As you and I, started back in the Atlantic City area when all the casinos used to fight with each other, I just think fundamentally that's not a good thing. So we certainly hope Virgin and obviously their owners and shareholders do well. I mean, as far as Las Vegas, as we've previously stated, it's still the gaming capital of the United States, and I think it always will be. Las Vegas has an amazing ability to continue to reinvent itself. I think if the right opportunity at the right time comes up, we would certainly be interested in coming back to Las Vegas, obviously under our ownership. I thank you for mentioning we did not own that property. Right. We had nothing to do with it.
Right.
We did not think it complemented the Hard Rock brand in any way, shape, or form. Certainly, I think it did when Peter Morton, the founder of Hard Rock, did. But its last, 5, 6, 7 years there, I think the property struggled for a whole host of reasons. So we're excited for Virgin now having a new opportunity in that building, and it allows us, to look at any opportunity that may come up, whether it be on the Las Vegas Strip or anywhere in the state of Nevada.
Sure. Were you a little bit troubled by the price that LVS got for the Venetian and Palazzo there, north of $6 billion?
We certainly wish the Adelson family and Rob Goldstein and the team nothing but congratulations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and but does that raise the price of some of the properties on the Strip you might be considering?
I think the question is, does it raise the price or does it change the business model? So when you have real estate, the Blackstones and, obviously all the casino REITs now being the driving economic valuation of an enterprise, the answer to the question is yes, it certainly does. But I think it's more driving these type situations into a partnership rather than sole ownership of what you used to see, like when Steve Wynn owned, the Mirage, or obviously Wynn Resort, or when Sheldon owned, the Venetian by itself. So business model is much different, but I don't think it overall, changes the potential interest in Nevada and specifically Las Vegas. I just think it's a different business model.
Sure, no question. So let's talk about your online business. You just announced some new leadership in that area. Where do you think that's going to be going?
Well, certainly Rafi and Marlon and Matt and Michael, the four main individuals that, took the Stars Group, or frankly took Amaya, to buy Poker Stars, and then just the list, whether it be from Skybet or creating Fox Bet, just world-class success, and most people don't realize the story. The Stars Group was actually making money, making close to $1 billion a year in EBITDA. And no one else in the space, focuses on that particular business model. So I think to create a partnership with their new company, obviously they all left the Stars Group when they merged with Flutter, and that company, their valuation was about $12 billion on their side, and the company now has a valuation in excess of $40 billion. To have a mindset with partners that look at profit, not just hyped what I call phantom revenue. We just think that is the long-term plan for success. We certainly understand that companies that are losing hundreds of millions of dollars a quarter, they are creating a very large database. And that database certainly will be a tremendous foundation block to potentially look at the profitability model. So we're not in any way saying that's a bad model. Just for us, we like to start with a mindset that's about EBITDA, not just potential revenue down the road.
Sure.
And candidly, we'll see how we do here in Florida. But being in Florida, if that scope becomes approved for us, then obviously, that's something that'll be a really nice foundation block. Other than that, I think we've got 16 different geographic locations that we're either in or already, focused on. And then candidly, in some cases, like New Jersey and Iowa and others, we're already operating.
Right. How has sports betting been performing for you in those areas? Certainly, Atlantic City is doing great guns in sports betting.
Yeah, I would say, first of all, most people, sometimes forget it, but we're also partnered in the Meadowlands, right?
Yes.
So our partner there, the majority partner, Jeff Corral, we absolutely love our relationship with Jeff. It is doing incredibly well, right? And obviously that's New York people coming across the New Jersey state line and certainly driving a lot of that business. And we certainly recognize that will change, assuming the 3 downstate licenses and sports betting in New York are approved sometime either this year or in the near future. I would say in New Jersey, we're very happy with our online business. I think we're doing very well there. We're a solid 4th in the marketplace, being the last one coming into the marketplace. A lot of success in a very short period of time. And we're like a lot of companies growing 140, 108, over 200% some months. That's real good. Clearly, our sports betting business is something we're still working on. I think our initial partner that we selected as far as a provider, in hindsight, maybe was, something we would do a little differently today. Sure. But we're certainly optimistic long term, especially with Matt and the team. I mean, these are the guys who created Fox Sports Bet, right? They now work for us. So we know their success. They immediately came in and saw some things and say, look, we should do X, Y, and Z. And candidly, we're already seeing benefits to their leadership, really only being here for 90 days.
Sure. So there's a move in Florida to legalize sports betting there, but of course it's got a lot of different elements to it. Where do you think that's going to go, and what role are you guys playing in that?
I think at this time it would be inappropriate for me to comment based upon being in the middle of the compact negotiation.
Okay. Would the situation that just happened in Connecticut with the tribes allowing sports betting at some of the off-track betting parlors and things like that, would that be something that you'd consider in Florida?
As I said, Florida is very unique because of the pari-mutuels, because of the gaming that is legal in Miami-Dade and Broward County. I was having conversations last night, late and early this morning, with some of the leadership of the state of Florida. And, the perception that we're against them, is just not accurate. Sure. Very, very, very humbly and very politely, we're not worried about what a pari-mutuel does, in whatever county in the state of Florida. It's not our business model. We don't look at that as competition. And candidly, we know they have a long legacy here, both from the physical operations and working with the people that obviously breed horses. So the tribe and myself, obviously 2 of our properties are branded Hard Rock. We've been supportive of that in, the 20 years I've been here, and I'm fairly confident we'll continue to do that in the future. In the past, I've actually testified to the legislative body of the state of Florida on behalf of the pari-mutuels, suggesting they are entitled to different scopes and change in rules and regulations that will create more profitability for their operations.
Sure. So I guess this is considered an expansion of gaming. I mean, didn't we just have a bill passed a few years ago that requires the state voters to approve any expansion of gaming?
I think that the DBPR and pari-mutuel operators would probably disagree with that. Right. We obviously, and Disney, I have a partnership with Disney. We were the 2 that supported and funded, Amendment 3. Mm-hmm. So I think, once again, we'll need to see what actual language is potentially on the floor to be voted upon before we could actually comment on whether we think it does or does not violate Amendment 3. Okay,
great. So, Jim, you've been working for the tribe now for almost 2 decades, and I can't think of any other executive that has lasted that long with the tribe. Why have you endured so long, and what's your relationship with the tribe right now?
Well, first of all, it actually was 20 years at the end of November. So, right. hard to imagine. And in early December, I sat down with Saul Kersner and said, Saul, I was going to resign. With a few F-bombs, he told me I was out of my mind and he would pay me whatever I wanted. He just couldn't pay me more than his son, Butch. God rest Butch. He unfortunately passed in that helicopter crash. But listen, I think it's about honesty and integrity, and I've always looked at the tribe knowing whether it's the Seminole tribe or Tejon or frankly, the Mohican tribe who I worked with when I was fortunate enough to work for Kevin DeSanctis and obviously Kersner. You have to treat with respect. You have to, be honest. You have to have integrity. You have to acknowledge that the white man has taken advantage of Native American tribes in countless situations and not just hundreds of years ago.
Sure.
I mean, we had a situation with Governor Scott Walker, signed documents with myself in the room, the Menominee tribe. I personally delivered them to the Secretary of Interior, and he reneged on the documents 3 days later. People don't believe that's happened, but it did. It literally happened, and that was 3-4 years ago. So, when those things still occur, I certainly understand 100% why Native Americans have a lack of trust sometimes in what a white man may say. And sure. I completely respect it and understand it.
Yeah, no question. Well, Jim, you've done a great job for the tribe. I mean, the business that you built there is just unbelievable internationally. The tribe is recognized. So congratulations on that. And really, thanks for the time to sit down with us. We like to catch up with you every couple of years or so, and we're glad to be able to do it this time.
Well, thank you, Roger. It's always a pleasure.
Hope you enjoyed this week's podcast brought to you by IGT. Your players will experience the convenience of digital transactions throughout your resort property with IGT's Resort Wallet. Learn more at IGT.com/cashless. To learn more about Hard Rock International and its unique place in the gaming industry, visit GGBmagazine.com. To get all the news of the gaming industry, particularly of the coronavirus situation and its impact on gaming, including daily updates, subscribe for free at ggbnews.com by using the code GGB180. Don't miss a single episode of the podcast. Subscribe on iTunes or Spotify today. So we'll see you next time on the GGB Podcast.